Magicians are much like government officials. Now, I'm not saying that this applies to all of them, but probably most. Magicians usually distract you with one hand while something much more important is happening in the other. Kind of like how we are swayed to talk about other issues that don't necessarily relate to what's currently happening in our lives. Were you guys aware that President Joe Biden just signed a bill to end the C-19 national emergency? Yeah, that just happened. There are a couple of other changes that will happen due to this, and it's going to make you wonder. Like, for example, where's that $400 billion that's supposedly still left over from the pandemic funds? You know, where the stimulus checks, PPP, and EIDL loan money came from? Yeah, what happened to all those funds? And an update in Ukraine shows that Bakhmut may soon be gone as Russian forces are advancing. However, officials from Kiev are denying that control over the city has now been turned over to Putin. Now, at this point, only one of these two sides is telling the truth. So which one do you think it is? Former President Donald Trump has recently talked about the intelligence leaks that came out recently, and he called it the worst one in our country's history. Is he also suggesting that this leak was caused by none other than President Joe Biden? Do you guys think that he would ever do that? Now, before I continue, please do me a huge one by dropping a like for the video. Really helps out a lot, helps the channel grow, and it helps to get these updates to even more people that need to hear about it. And if you guys are in need of your daily dose of the truth when it comes to Social Security, SSI, SSDI, the state of our economy, SNAP and EBT, global happenings, the stock market, the housing market, and everything that they're doing up in Washington, D.C. that affects us, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And for the best way to invest in gold or silver, be sure to check out the links in the description down below.
We've got some news just into us also out of the Biden administration, with the president taking a significant and symbolic step into a post-pandemic world. The White House is just now saying that the president has just signed a bill that will end the national emergency declared during the COVID pandemic. Remember, that's a state of emergency that had been in place for more than 3 years after then President Trump declared it in March of 2020. NBC's Monica Alba is joining us now. And Mon, it is not unexpected that the president signed this bill into law. Once it made it through Congress, the White House came out and essentially said, hey, President Biden opposes this, but he will sign it. It winds down this national emergency in May. This is symbolically significant. It may also have some real world impact here, right? Talk to us through it.
Exactly, Hallie. And this is something that House Republicans, when they took control, said they were going to do very quickly. And indeed, they introduced it. And when it passed, the White House said, look, we wouldn't like for this to become reality in February, which is when this was being discussed earlier. Let's see if we can get a little more time, because they wanted to give agencies, things like hospitals, anybody that deals with healthcare, a little bit of time to wind this down. Because once this national COVID emergency ends, a lot of things that are tied up in sort of the justification for how they were done, when it comes to things like Medicare, different kinds of health insurance, certain things could be authorized because they were citing this national COVID emergency. So once that's done, and in some cases 60 days after, certain things that were available and that people could take advantage of will no longer exist. And so indeed, President Biden said he wasn't going to veto this, that he was okay with signing it, even though he wasn't in favor of what much of the legislation says, because again, this was something that was put forth by House Republicans.
Just to jog you guys' memory, President Joe Biden vetoed the retirement investment resolution that would push for money managers of our retirement funds to invest in companies that will affect climate change. Now, some question why the same couldn't be done here, as this will affect a lot of lower income Americans. Officials from the White House have said that ending the national emergency does not impact the government's public health emergency that will end by May 11th, which means that until that time, the government will still be providing C-19 tests, treatments, and vaccines. Which brings me to this tracker here. So this tracker has shown a surplus of $400 billion for months now, and you gotta ask, what's the plan for all this money? Now, I think a better question is was it used somewhere else and they didn't tell us? You know what? I'll let you guys think about that. What do you think will be done with this money that's left over? And even more importantly, is it even still available? Now, let's just hope that it is, because that would help out a lot of people. Now, speaking of help, Ukraine may need more help, as the mercenary group called Wagner is saying that they've now seized more than 80% of Bakhmut.
From Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head and founder of the Wagner private military contractor mercenary group, essentially a lot of his fighters engaged in Bakhmut, saying that overnight, and providing video indeed, claiming that his fighters had hoisted the Wagner and the Russian flag above the administrative headquarters in the eastern part of Bakhmut. The Ukrainians pushed to the western side of that town, and that therefore Russia legally held Bakhmut. Well, the Ukrainians certainly not conceding anything like that. A military official saying that they are still contesting and defending the eastern part of the city, that the situation is extremely tense.
This city has been a focal point for Russia's plans to go through eastern Ukraine, although Ukraine's military has said that they controlled considerably more than 20% of the city. Now, this raises a lot of questions because their own president, Vladimir Zelensky, has made no reference to the situation in Bakhmut. Now, Zelensky is normally the first one to jump on the podium and start bragging about how well things are going. Why is he so quiet about this? Now, in his nightly addresses, he also said, quote, "There will be no ruins in Ukraine. That is our aim. It will be concrete proof of the complete defeat of the terrorist state," end quote. All right, so what do you guys think? Which side's really telling the truth here? Now, speaking of the truth, do you guys believe what former President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social? Well, here it is. Quote, "The worst leaks of intelligence in U.S. history. Our country has never been so embarrassed, and yet they come after Trump on their old and tired boxes hoax. The special prosecutor should investigate Biden. Maybe he was the leaker. Nothing would surprise me about this group," end quote. Well, that's coming from Trump. Now, at this point, both the Pentagon and the Department of Justice are just trying to figure out how secret documents that contained U.S. intelligence of its own allies and Ukraine's military capabilities, or I should say maybe even lack thereof, found its way online onto social media platforms.
It may be the biggest U.S. intelligence breach since Edward Snowden leaked top secret documents back in 2013. Tonight, the search is on for whoever revealed classified documents online, many of them focused on Russia and Ukraine's military capabilities. Matt Bradley is tracking it all from Kyiv. Matt?
Yeah, Kate, a senior U.S. intelligence official told NBC News tonight that these documents with regard to the war in Ukraine are real, that they may have been altered in certain parts, particularly with regard to estimates of Ukrainian casualties. And now the Justice Department is joining the Pentagon in trying to find out who was responsible for these leaks and if that person or people work for the U.S. government. And these documents reveal some interesting clues about Ukrainian and Russian military capabilities that haven't been published before. But Kate, the real impact here is going to be on American intelligence gathering and capabilities. They really show the reach of America's eyes and ears, spying not just on enemies, but also on allies.
And Trump even jabbed that Jack Smith, the federal special counsel that's overseeing the investigation of his alleged mishandling of classified information, should instead focus on President Biden. Now, what do you guys think about this? Like, is there a chance that our intelligence is being shared by our own government officials? And if so, why? Be sure to share your thoughts and comments down below, you guys. Now, if we're talking about leaks, though, there is one leak for sure in most of our wallets. Don't you guys feel as if your paycheck just kind of glides over your hands and goes straight to credit card bills, to car payments, to your rent or mortgage payment, or any other expense besides you? Well, the toughest part is that most times this paycheck isn't even enough. And with the fear that layoffs are bringing to the labor market right now, this is not the time to relax. You got time for that later, but the time for that is not now. But what can we do right now? Well, if you're interested in learning about side hustles, about building small businesses, home-based businesses that can generate multiple streams of income, about investments in real estate, the stock market, purchasing dividend-paying ETFs, REITs, or even how you can safely get access to precious metals like gold and silver, then don't hesitate to drop a comment down below. And of course, for the best way to invest in gold or silver, be sure to hit the link in the description down below this video. Now, before I go, guys, please don't forget to drop a huge thumbs up for the video. It really means a lot to me. And don't forget to subscribe for your daily dose of the truth. Appreciate you guys watching. Please be kind to one another, and I will see you guys on the next one.